Yo, my name is Chris Gongora, and with me as always is my trusty little pal Jazz. So I made some top 4 lists in the past that included some crazy mythical musicians. She's heard this all before, so she'll come back when she's ready. So I made some top 4 lists that included some crazy... Back ready? Come here. Good girl. So my top 4 has included some mythical performers and musicians, including Jimi Hendrix, Robert Johnson, Jim Morrison. All iconic legends that were taken away from the collective us way too soon. And by too soon, I mean at the age of 27. They belong to an equally fascinating as it is tragic group known as the 27 Club. I'm gonna admit, I've always been kind of intrigued by the 27 Club. I'm trying to think when it was when it first entered my consciousness. And thinking back, I think it was when Kurt Cobain died at the age of 27. Nirvana is one of my favorite groups of all time. So when he died, it kind of hit me hard. I remember when he died, they were talking about him joining the 27 Club. Then I started to hear about all the names that passed away before him that died at the age of 27. I'm not gonna lie, as stupid or silly as it may sound, I thought I was gonna join the club. I was kind of okay with it at the time. I told my friends about it. I think I may even told my folks about it. Nobody was very happy that that's kind of where I thought it was heading. The closest that I got to joining, or at least the closest that I know of, was actually on my 27th birthday. My friends had taken me out bar hopping in Old Town Pasadena. I was stepping out under the crosswalk to cross the street when one of my friends grabbed me by the collar and pulled me back to the sidewalk. Not paying attention, I was actually crossing the street on a red light, and there was a car that was about to drive through the intersection going the speed that he should have been going. I'm pretty sure my friends prevented probably would have been a pretty tragic night for my friends and my family. So today I thought we'd look at the members of the club and how they got their ticket stamped to become a part of it. Robert Johnson, one of my top 4 most influential rock and blues guitarists of all time. He was a pioneer that influenced many a rock and roller that followed. He was so good that there's an infamous myth that you probably heard of, that he sold his soul to the devil at the crossroads of Mississippi in exchange for his musical greatness. Johnson's death, much like his life, is shrouded in mystery. Apparently his death certificate says that he died from complications of syphilis. But many people believe that he died after being poisoned by one of his mistress's ticked-off husbands. The next guy on the list was said to be obsessed with Robert Johnson. Talking about Brian Jones, one of the founding members of the Rolling Stones and the band's leader in the early years. After 7 years in the band that he helped form, he was asked to leave as drugs and alcohol started to do what drugs and alcohol kind of do to people. 1 month later, his body was found at the bottom of his swimming pool. Much like Johnson's death, Jones's is also shrouded in mystery. The coroner's report states death by misadventure, drowning under the influence of drugs and alcohol. But some say that Brian was murdered by the man that he hired to renovate his house because he felt that he was being underpaid. Brian Jones died in 1969. 1970 would see 3 rock and rollers join the club. Alan Blindell Wilson, a founding member and guitarist of the band Canned Heat, was found in a sleeping bag. His death officially ruled an accidental overdose of barbiturates. The next one to go may very well be the greatest and most influential rock guitarist to ever strap on an electric axe. My number 1 guitarist of all time, Jimi Hendrix, who revolutionized not just the way a guitar is played, but rock and roll itself. He was DOA after being taken to the hospital from a hotel room where he was with his girlfriend. His official cause of death was that of asphyxia, due to aspiration of vomit, due to barbiturate intoxication. The greatest guitar player to have ever lived choked on his own vomit. Less than a month later, another monster of music saw her end. Janis Joplin, who went from lead singer of Big Brother and the Holding Company to her own solo artist. Her voice was raw, intense. It hit all the right nerves in all the right spots. All you gotta do is look at her legendary performance at the Monterey Pop Festival, and you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. If you don't already, it'll give you goosebumps. When she didn't make a recording session, her people went to go check her hotel room where she was staying at. They found her face down, nose broken, with fresh needle marks in her arm. Her official cause of death was an accidental overdose of heroin. So in 1971, another J was taken from her. After Jimmy and Janis, Jim followed right behind. Talking about Jim Morrison. Crazy to think that those 3 titans were taken away from the world only a few months apart from each other. Morrison was one of my top 4 solo artists of all time. No autopsy was performed on Jim Morrison, but he died of a heart attack that was brought on by drugs. So along with Jerry Garcia, Ron Pigpen McKernan helped form the Grateful Dead. He was also a one-time love interest of Janis Joplin. His body was found by his landlady. He passed away from an internal hemorrhage. The Stooges' Dave Alexander became a member of the 27 Club when he died of pulmonary edema in 1975. Pete Ham, the founding member of Badfinger, died 3 days before his 28th birthday. He hung himself in his garage. Dee Boone, who was the singer of the Minutemen, was ejected from the van that his girlfriend was driving. He was in the backseat with a fever when the van rolled over and threw him out, breaking his neck at the scene. Up next was a visionary artist who created fearless work and shared the rock and roll mentality of a lot of the musicians already mentioned. Jean-Michel Basquiat. He hung out with Warhol. He was in Blondie's video for Rapture. He died at 27 from a drug overdose, a heroin overdose. Mia Zapata. Mia Zapata was the lead singer of the punk band The Gits. Last year during the pandemic, I actually saw her documentary The Gits. Talk about an emotional flick. Zapata's lifeless body was found in the middle of a street. She was raped, strangled by her own drawstring from the hood of her sweatshirt, and murdered. Her case went cold until DNA was able to match the son of a bitch who took her life 10 years later. Kurt Cobain. There are monumental shifts in music, in pop culture. Nirvana and the band's leader Kurt Cobain created one of the biggest shakeups with the arrival of Smells Like Teen Spirit and its accompanying video. All the hair bands, all the pop gods were dethroned, making way for the grunge sound to take over the airwaves. I've read books, I've seen a lot of documentaries, so I know that there are a lot of mysteries and inconsistencies surrounding Kurt Cobain's death. The official cause of his death is that of a self-inflicted gunshot wound to the head. Of course, the conspiracy theories are many, including the big one that his wife Courtney Love had him murdered. 2 months after Kurt Cobain's death, Kristen Pfaff, the bassist for Courtney Love's band Hole, died at 27. Much like Kurt's death, hers is also shrouded in its own theories. She was found in her Seattle apartment's bathroom with drug paraphernalia all around. Her death caused by a heroin overdose. The not so open and shut argument that people believe that there was foul play, once again orchestrated by Courtney Love. In 2003, actor Jonathan Brandis hung himself in his Los Angeles apartment. In 2011, Amy Winehouse, who had won multiple Grammys for her album Back in Black that showcased her unique vocal style and songwriting, died from alcohol poisoning. Last year, I also saw her documentary. Her last days were so sad. On July 19, 2016, promising young actor Anton Yelchin accidentally got crushed by his SUV when it rolled backwards down his driveway, pinning him against a brick postbox and a security fence. His official cause of death was accidental traumatic asphyxia. He was 27 years old. I came away with 3 strong feelings when looking into these lives lost. 1, just how tragic all these artists' deaths were, and sometimes even their lives. For all the beautiful things that they created, many were so troubled throughout their short lives. Which brings me to number 2, how short life really is. Living life is a crazy, beautiful, and wonderful ride. As you're living it, you can swear that it's going by slow. But then you wake up one day and you realize how much life you've already lived and how many memories you've already created. And then in that moment, you realize just how fast life is. You gotta love the ones you're with. You gotta love yourself. And hopefully you can wake up every morning ready to enjoy the journey that life is taking you on. Because tomorrow is not guaranteed. Hell, the next minute's not guaranteed. Lastly, as far as all these names on this list, they're icons. They're timeless. They've created some of the biggest phenomenons in music and entertainment and pop culture that you can sometimes forget. I know I do and I did, that they were creating all these amazing things at such an early age. Jimi Hendrix was 25 when he lit his guitar on fire at the Monterey Pop Festival. Kurt Cobain was 24 when Nevermind came out. Jim Morrison was 24 when Light My Fire was released. Just amazing to think about. So I say, no matter how young you are, no matter how old you are, you gotta do you, and do and create, and as long as you're not hurting anybody else, do what makes you happy. Because one day you're here, and the next day you're just dust in the wind. Alright, so that's it. Jazzy and I will be back next week with some more bullshit to talk about. Is that right, Jazzy? Sorry, I didn't really wake you up. That was a long one. She had a nice little rest on that one. Oh, okay, let's go.